Geoholic.
Still we march and we'll never falter. Side by side we'll sing our song. Let's have a cheer for our fallen brethren. Through us say we'll never die.
Yeah! Let's go! Man, if that doesn't get you going.
I broke out a sweat.
No, that's just this room.
In fact, it's 114 outside.
Yeah.
Why do we live here, Sean?
It's just a beautiful place.
9 months out of the year, I would agree with you.
Yes. Now it's a little tough.
It's a little tough indeed. All right, Geoholics, welcome back. Episode 220. Nice, even round number.
220. We are cooking right along.
We are indeed cooking. Man, we've released a lot of content lately.
Right? Whew. There's some more stuff firing out too.
Up. Yeah. I'm excited for the listeners.
We're still in National Safety Month, so the next one will be our good friend Mr. Brian Owens.
That's the next one. And then last week's episode was pretty freaking amazing.
We'll probably talk about it again next week. Ooh. But man, just about everybody I talked to, I mentioned that episode.
It's
going to be one of those.
It was a privilege.
It really was.
To be able to talk to a 102-year-old gentleman, let alone
103.
He'll be 103.
Okay.
Yeah. He said he's coming back for his 103rd birthday.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have that to look forward to.
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, we have a special co-host with us this evening, Mr. Sean Asher. Sean is a reality capture. I'm going to call him an expert. I'm going to use that term loosely, of course.
Yes, because we know him.
Yep, because we know him. But Sean, welcome back to the Geoholics. Good to see you, and we appreciate you joining us this evening.
Always good to be here with you guys, man.
Hey, what's your dog? You got 2 dogs back there? How many dogs you got?
Or is that a cat or a dog?
3 dogs.
What is that?
3 dogs.
Is that a mini pig? What is that?
That one's a poodle. This one's a poodle Yorkie. That one's a poodle shepherd. My wife was a vet tech, and she just keeps bringing them home, man. Like I don't even have a say in the matter. It just shows
great. Interesting. That tells me a lot about your relationship.
Yeah, right.
Right. But hold tight, Sean. We're going to get you back in here in just a minute. Real quick, couple updates. We have the Women's Survey Summit coming up in August.
Yeah, it's that time of year again.
Already.
Yeah.
We got to start talking about it because it's the end of June already.
Yeah, the August is very much here.
And we, of course, will be sponsoring a scholarship again this year.
Yeah, yes.
So any ladies listening that would like to attend the Women's Survey Summit this year, look for more details because there's going to be a little competition just like last year. Coral, remember Coral won it last year?
I do, yes.
We're going to do the same thing again this year. So stay tuned for additional details on that. Follow our social media pages for more. And what else we got to do? Got to mention a new friend of the program.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, Mr. Dr. Tony Nettleman.
A little boomerang action.
Yep, he's back with us, Nettleman Land Consultants. So stay tuned for more about those guys. We'll be promoting them like crazy, just like the rest of our friends of the program. Other than that, what's new with you, Sean?
Not a whole lot. My wife doesn't want me to.
We're going to have T-shirts made that say "not a whole lot" because you say the same thing every week.
And then I proceed to tell a bunch of stuff that's going on that is the opposite of not a whole lot. I don't know if you didn't even mention that I shaved my beard.
Thank God.
Yeah, it was getting out of hand, but it wasn't because of that. It had a little bit of a lice problem at the Faber compound.
Did you bring it home in the beard?
No. My daughter brought it home from somewhere, and then my wife found some, and my mother-in-law, and they're going to be mad that I even mentioned it. But I was sitting there laying in bed. I was just like scratching, and I knew that there was nothing in there, but I was like, I can't sleep. This thing's got to go.
So I was in the middle of the night.
Yes, middle of the night. Just to hack this thing off. Like I can't deal with it.
Oh my God,
it's just
awesome.
It was an anxiety killer for me. But
so how do you get rid of those old suckers? Is it like gasoline or something?
There's like a shampoo thing that just like kills it all. But then you got to take this comb and like comb them out.
Oh God.
And it's
like the carcasses.
Yeah. But there's like different stages. There's like adults, and then there's like little eggs.
God.
I mean, it is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't spread disease, and they can't. It can't go from an inanimate object. It can only go like head to head is how they spread. But they spread. Yeah. So it's been,
I'm glad you shaved it, dude, because
it's
honestly,
been a fun week.
You were looking a little Quakerish.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It was my wife likes it. I may grow back a little stubble, but it's not gonna.
Stubble's
be the same.
good.
Yeah.
Once you let that thing get to, I was like, I don't know how much longer this is going to last. Either it's going or I'm going.
Didn't realize you were so intertwined in my grooming techniques, but all right. The other thing is you don't let me do the trivia things anymore, but today is the summer solstice. It is actually the longest day of the year.
Is it today or tomorrow?
It is today.
The 20th? I thought it was the 21st.
It's the 20th. It's the earliest it's been in 200 years.
Is it always the 21st normally?
It's somewhere between the 20th and 22nd.
Oh, I did not know that.
It's for certain. It's the earliest it's been in 200 years, and actually in 4 years it'll be even earlier than that.
So for us,
it's just got something to do with the leap year and how the leap year is not exact.
Yeah.
It gets close, but there's a little bit. It's a little bit off. So
that makes perfect sense. And here in Arizona, we welcome this day.
Oh, yes.
Because this is like the longest day of hell.
And that means that every day after that is a slightly shorter day of hell.
Yes.
During this time period.
We should celebrate accordingly.
Oh, I mean, we are, we do.
Cheers.
Cheers
Cheers to the solstice.
Yeah, we're on the other side.
Let's do it.
That's it. What's new with you?
What's new with me? Not a ton. I have, and that'll be my t-shirt. Yours is
not
too much. Mine's not a ton. What's new? We were talking before the show. I made a in and out trip to San Diego yesterday, and I don't know that I've ever done that. Like
same dayer.
Took the 7 a.m.
first flight out, the late afternoon back.
Yep, spent the day doing a presentation, this and that, and then flew back that afternoon. Really bizarre. It's just weird, like making that trip. And then you're laying in bed, you're like, I spent the day in San Diego today. How did that happen? But it was good. It was a good day for sure. Other than that, excited about the Stanley Cup playoffs, the fact they're still going.
Yeah, they are.
I would love to see Edmonton come back and make this a 7-game series. That'd be really exciting.
Yeah, that last game 5 was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was an awesome game.
That was awesome. Yep. Man, those guys, some of the best athletes on the planet. No doubt about it. Next to UFC fighters and curlers. Yeah,
well, we won't have that conversation. Well, that's a debate. That's a debate for a different day.
Trust me, there will be another curling mention yet to this evening.
Well, you also think that hockey players are the best athletes of the 4 major sports, and I disagree. But neither here nor there, and we don't have time to get into it.
Conversation for another show.
Let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going. All right, tell us about that opening number.
Okay, that was a group called the Real Mackenzies.
I like
a song called Due West. The Real Mackenzies are a Canadian Celtic punk band. Pretty sure that's the first Canadian Celtic punk band.
That too.
On the playlist. Founded in 1992 in Vancouver, British Columbia. Known for their energetic performances and a blend of traditional Scottish music with punk rock, the band was founded by lead singer Paul Mackenzie. Their music often features bagpipes and lyrics inspired by Scottish heritage, drinking songs, hear hear, and rebellious themes. The band has toured extensively worldwide, sharing their spirited and rowdy performances with a broad audience. Their contribution to the punk rock scene, infused with Celtic influences, has made them a distinctive and celebrated act within the genre.
And I like it.
Yeah. I
like that music a lot.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, good addition to the playlist. You mentioned the playlist.
It really is.
Anybody listening, if you haven't already, if you're on Spotify and you haven't subscribed or liked or whatever the Geoholics playlist, you're missing out. That's all I got to say.
Mm-hmm.
Best
going on a 15-hour road trip. That's the playlist for you.
it is for sure. All right. We are, of course, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studio this evening. A little bit about Diamondback Land Surveying. They provide complete surveying, mapping, and construction staking solutions for residential, commercial, and public works projects. DBLS is a firm made up of highly skilled professional land surveyors with over 200 years of experience in the public land survey system and construction surveying. Their survey team take great pride in being professionals in all aspects of their work and emphasize on timely service that maintains an excellent reputation in the construction and development communities by consistently providing top-notch services to their clients. To find out more, go to diamondbacklandsurveying.com, tell them the Geoholics sent you, and make sure you say hi to Mr. Trent Keenan.
Oh, yeah. TK had a birthday here recently, didn't he?
Yeah. Did you wish him a birthday? You got to stay on that guy's good side.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I did through you.
Oh, okay.
He knew that when you sent him the message, it was from both of us.
Okay.
I just know it. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Just so to answer your question, no.
Okay. All right. Well, you kind of just did.
Yeah.
You can do it right now.
Yeah. Hey, buddy. Happy birthday.
There you go.
Have yourself a day.
I think he'll appreciate that even more.
Absolutely.
All right. Next up, we have the Geomax Weekly Service Pro Tip. To find out more about Geomax, go to geomax-positioning.com. Those guys got a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, they do.
What do you got this week?
Well, I got
this is like a smorgasbord.
It's a smorgasbord of definitions, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'll pick out a couple that I like. The first one is, I guess these are pro tips in general, right?
Yeah.
Adaptability. The only constant in business is change. Adapt to survive and thrive. Some people call it the adapt or die.
That is very applicable to our topic this evening. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Another one is integrity. In business, integrity is not an option. It's a necessity.
Yep.
That's pretty common. I love this one. We talk about it a lot. Perseverance. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Big top.
Love that one.
Big theme for the year for us too is
Yep.
Fail quickly.
Fail forward.
Yep. Continuous improvement. Always seek ways to improve. Excellence is a continuous process. And networking. I like to think we do this one pretty well. Your network is your net worth. Build and maintain strong relationships. I think we both can attest that a strong relationship and a strong network is really the foundation of
vital. No doubt
really
about it.
Getting places in
and
our careers.
As I've taken on more of a outside sales, business development, and marketing position, I am a firm believer in that.
Oh yeah, because you just never know. You never know where that next contact and connection and that guy knows that guy and that guy introduced me that guy and all of a sudden
making connections, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. All right, let's keep going here. We're on a roll, buddy.
Yes, we're almost done. We're almost done.
We're going to tag team this one.
Okay.
All right. This week we have the GeoSearch Career Corner. This is about a really cool opportunity they have offered on their website.
I really want you to say what this title is.
I figured you probably want me to go first. So the title of this opportunity is Topo Bathymetric LiDAR Specialist. This is a fully remote opportunity, and they have a unique and exciting opportunity for an experienced geospatial remote sensing professional looking to step up into an advanced technology leadership role.
You'll be responsible for continued development and process improvement surrounding the creation of bathymetric data from various sources, including airborne topobathymetric LiDAR sensors, satellite-derived bathymetric data, and crewed or uncrewed surface vehicles.
You know what? Obviously, when I looked at that, I was reading screwed or unscrewed surface vehicles. All right. This position requires experience in topobathymetric LiDAR, geomatics, GIS, and remote sensing.
And the preferred experience in survey technology using LiDAR and photogrammetry. Experience in acoustic sonar technologies is also a plus.
This is all cutting edge stuff. There's no doubt about it. To find out
Maybe
more,
our guests can tell us what some of this stuff is.
Hopefully these guys can educate us tonight.
The smarter Sean will pop in, maybe.
Exactly. To find out more, simply go to geosearch.com. All right, let's get our guest in here. And Sean. Our guest, of course, this week is presented by Airworks. To find out more about Airworks, go to airworks.io. A little bit about Airworks. Their mission is to provide the data intelligence that powers the built world.
We're making plans for some travels upcoming. I'm getting excited to see these guys.
We will see those guys.
We're going to see
They're everywhere. Yeah, we love those guys. And vice versa. Fun guys to hang out with.
Absolutely.
All right.
Wait, did you say vice versa as in they would like us too?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I hope anyways. All right, we have Alex Hill-Stosky with us this evening. A little bit about Alex before we get going. He was born in Miramichi, New Brunswick, Canada, and was raised in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, Canada. Some of my favorite people are from Canada.
We know.
You know that?
Yeah.
Attended Center, of course, CENTRE, of Geographic Sciences in Nova Scotia, where he achieved a certificate in survey technology in 2015 and a diploma in geomatics engineering technology 2016. Then attended the University of New Brunswick, where he achieved undergraduate degree in geodesy and geomatics engineering. And that was just a couple of years ago, 2022.
You know what? I think he went to college as long as you did, but somehow he got 3 very relevant degrees.
And I got an associate's. It's just the way things happen.
Right.
College isn't for everybody, buddy.
It isn't.
In his free time, he's engaged in the reality capture community, which is why we have him on this evening. He has created an organization called The Committee, which I love, a reality capture focused awareness, education, and advocacy group based in the United States. And he co-founded a national event inspired by the work of The Committee called Can Slam Circuit. Which we are also going to find out more because I'm very curious about that. His current job is manager of reality capture development and regulation at Eagle Engineering and Consulting. And of course, his passion is reality capture. Alex, welcome to the Geoholics. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you taking the time. I know it's like bedtime where you are, so thank you for being here.
First, I'm sorry, and yeah, thanks for having me. I very much appreciate it.
There he is.
Come on,
the old Canadian greeting.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. But yeah, thanks for being here, Alex. We got to start out with the Trimble Geospatial Icebreaker. To find out more about Trimble Geospatial, go to geospatial.trimble.com. They are, of course, dedicated to big thinking innovation. Together with their worldwide distributor partners, the Trimble Geospatial team is working with current and future generations of surveyor for a more sustainable future. All right, here's the icebreaker. Alex, you're going to go first on this one. We're going to go around the horn because I love this question. What's the biggest what if in your mind at the moment?
Yeah, what if remote sensing satellites no longer had operational restrictions on them?
Oh, I want to find out more about that because I want to know what that would mean, actually. So let's circle back. Hold on. Smart Sean, what's your answer to this one?
There was a play in Ravens football history in 2011. There's like 2 plays back to back. Lee Evans dropped a touchdown, and then Billy Cundiff missed a field goal. And what if the Ravens had 3 Super Bowl rings?
Oh, yeah. Wow. You could be a Bills fan.
I mean, if you ask me what if, that's just what happens at the beginning.
That's
at the riff.
awesome.
Sorry.
You brought it back to sports. I love it. Not so smart, Sean. What do you got?
Well, you have to go next because mine was also sports related.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was actually football related. So you need to go next, and then I'll go.
It's probably really easy. What if we could live forever?
That's really not good.
Why is that not good? I mean, wouldn't you love to live forever?
I think that's like a debate where people actually, there's another side where there's a real downside to that. Like,
really?
Do you age?
Everything just
everybody dies around you and you're the only one that doesn't.
This? What if I could live forever as 23-year-old Kent?
Well, that would be like physically impossible. Because actually that ties into my second one, which is, what if you never got hungover? Or what if you never felt bad from drinking or
doing other things?
Like, what if there was just no downside? What would that look like?
Reckless.
Well, I guess there is a way to find out. Just keep doing it. Don't ever stop.
I mean, eventually I know.
It's going to catch up to you.
Yeah, it's
all
going to
right,
catch
what's
up
yours? You said yours is sports related as well.
Well, the one that I was going to say was, what if the Patriots don't make that field goal? And I think it's 2002 and the Panthers were in the Super Bowl and the Panthers have the Super Bowl ring. And I think my life would have altered.
You think that would have changed your life?
You never know. It's like that butterfly thing. Like, I remember when I was working at the time and I was in North Carolina and it would have been I don't know, just saying.
You know what? I can see that because the Cubs winning the World Series changed my life. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah. I know that. I know that. Yeah.
So anyways, I just snorted. Did you hear that? That was weird. All right, let's get this going. Let's get to know Alex a little bit more here. Alex, first of all, the answer to your what if question, very intriguing to me. If what you said was possible, what would that mean?
Well, so satellite technology is regulated in the fact that you can't get it beyond 30 centimeter resolution on your remote images. So if we took that away, because we've all heard the secrets of satellites that are launched and the capabilities that these things have, especially military, and we know secret satellites are going up, which is another topic for a whole different conversation. So like, it's just interesting to know what's already there. what they're seeing, and then if that kind of surveillance, if that was available to the commercial market, what kind of impact that would have on the geospatial community? Because a lot of preliminary work might not be necessary as a result of that, or monitoring would become a completely different beast. Digitization of the planet would not be a controversial issue. There'd be problems. But it would create a massive unified data set with a pretty decent resolution to it, especially if it was done on a global scale, maybe continental. But yeah, I just what would industry and what would the digital world look like if we had access to everywhere all the time?
That's amazing. What do you got, Sean?
I think within 10 years, maybe 20, you're talking about the death of survey as a profession.
Especially on the outside. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. You have so much data. You have so much data that regardless of how accurate or inaccurate individual subsets of the data are, the aggregate is still going to exist at whatever resolution they are launching these satellites that are capable of. And
interesting.
I was military intelligence. It's pretty high speed. It's
wow.
Well, and then you've got,
and that was 10 years ago too.
And then you've got things like Starship. So 150 tons at a time. So I mean, whatever we put up into space already, you can just put bigger, more sophisticated ones in there now. Because who needs to pack it in anymore?
Interesting. All right, now I'm scared. Right? I'm not going to have a job.
I don't think it'll happen. I mean, the government doesn't want you to have that data.
Nobody's going to know what to do with that stuff.
All right, fair enough. I'm better now.
Airworks will have us all replaced in 10 years.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But in that scenario, you basically just take whatever resolution you get, and then do you think you just build everything based on that resolution because that's what you have? You know, and your allowable tolerance just kind of goes up a little bit because that's what you got, and it's everywhere, and everyone can use it.
I think good enough will become a phrase that everybody's going to use. Very familiar with. Yeah, that's good enough. We don't need to send anybody. We can use that.
It'll be the democratization of 3D modeling, right? Global 3D modeling.
Yep. And that's the thing. The only place that satellites can't go is in someone's home, or a building. So that's the only place we've really got left for mapping. But at the same time, autonomous robots, how much lifting are they going to do when they actually get introduced to the common market? Are they going to be mapping your apartment building while they're dropping off your package? If they are, where does that information go? Who's using it? What value is that to anybody?
Wow. I like the directions it's going already, Sean. What do you think?
I mean,
I just had to double check to make sure what I was saying was not going to do
fact
anything.
Fact check. Stay tuned.
I wasn't going to be in trouble. Synthetic aperture radar satellites,
yes,
you can see in homes.
Yeah.
You can see in homes pretty easily.
What was it called again?
Synthetic aperture radar.
Synthetic aperture
INSAR.
radar.
Oh my gosh. INSAR. Yep. Okay. I've heard of INSAR before. So I'm glad we clarified that. That's awesome. Alex, so I'm curious, like your education came really later on in life as it pertains to geospatial. I mean,
I'm a late bloomer.
What triggered you to pursue a career in geospatial / reality capture?
So I was working security in the Alberta oil sands at one of the sites there, and my brother actually was the one who got me into geomatics in general. So he went to the Center of Geographic Sciences a year or two before me, but he did some work in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and he toured around the Midwest for about 2 years. And then he took a job in Alberta. And we hadn't seen each other in a very long time. So as soon as we found him in the same proximity, great. So then that's when I actually got to sit down with him and talk about what he was doing at COGS and kind of what he learned there, how he applied it in the United States, and some of the adventures that he had. Because I was originally an outdoor person. Now I really like my air conditioning, but we like the outdoors. We like the challenge. We like the middle of nowhere. We like the quiet, and we like the thrill that comes with the natural environment. So it was listening to the places that he'd go and some of the things he had to endure, like chasing the brown recluses out of his clothes every day. I don't know. It sounded kind of exciting. The only thing that he said that's funny though, because he did go back to the States for a little bit and then he went to the Army, and then I asked him why, and he said, if anybody's going to point a gun at me again, I want the ability to return the favor.
Nice. I like that.
Oh man, that's so funny.
But
Is it me, or does Canada really have their shit together when it comes to geospatial degrees and education?
Can confirm.
It just
I
seems
do
like
agree with you.
Like the list here, like there's people that can't find that in the States, and if they did, it'd be very. I mean, it just seems.
Yep. No, you're right.
Not the first guy that I've been very impressed with. Man, that is dialed in great.
Now, you think you're impressed now? You just wait 30 minutes. All right, let's talk about the committee. That's pretty cool, and the Can Slam circuit.
Absolutely.
Talk about how are those two tied together, and what's the objective here?
Sure. Yeah. Well,
the mission.
Bit of a correction there. I didn't found it. I went with I joined, and then we all became the entity together. But so the way that the committee started, in my eyes, was I went to GeoWeek in 2023, and I already went there with SLAM on my mind, so simultaneous localization and mapping. We'll get into that part because that's where the CanSlam circuit comes in. But a new technology for mapping uses computer vision to tie a bunch of information points together to create a 3D model. I'd been researching them for 2 years at that point, and Navis was really had my attention, but they would never return my calls. But but it was really fascinating because of the fact that looking at the system, and I started following them just before they started becoming before they became established in the United States. But hearing the boasts of half centimeter point clouds and being able to tie all this information together into a nice, clean, coherent model or point cloud was fascinating to me. I thought that was really interesting because of the fact that if that is true, which of course I didn't know because I couldn't test it, if it's true, that's replaced a lot of terrestrial LiDAR scanning for a lot of different work, which of course is replacing total stations for survey for a lot of different work because it's really fast and it collects way more data than you would have ever thought to collect with a total station, meaning that your incidental data is just the scan itself is invaluable because of the incidental data that comes with. We'll kind of get into that in a bit because if you go to a site, like for example, mobile mapping systems are wonderful because you're mapping vast distances over a very short period of time. And then, you bring that information back home and you're measuring it for only particular aspects of things, but you might have forgotten something, you might have missed something, the client might have added something after the fact. And instead of having to go back out and drive 8 hours to the work site to go set up and then, find your way home, you just recall the data from the last time that you went. And now you've got a 1-to-1 scale model of the place that you were. And you just start pulling information out. There's little ambiguity anymore. Sorry. So I was getting really excited about this stuff, and that was
sorry.
Start a
we're gonna have a counter. We got a counter.
I am curious myself. That and keep them counting. So when I went to the GeoWeek, that's when I ran into Chris Kirchhoff in particular, who was standing at the desk there, and what they did was a single setup at GeoWeek, where they had a pedestal set up and they had a couple of sample boards. Yeah, I think you guys remember this. And they scans of certain materials at certain distances, and then they also just looked at the relationship of the actual room scan. And did a couple of comparisons because of the fact that the standardizations for these instruments, there is none. Like if you look at any manufacturer, they tend to be very different in how they report the performance of their unit. And they just wanted a unified metric. And I've obviously, I had SLAM on the mind. And so as I walked away from that, I'm like, that's brilliant. That needs to happen for SLAM because this stuff needs to go fast. Yeah. And I ran into the founder of the Go Geomatics Expo, John Murphy, the next day. And he mentioned that he was doing this thing. And I said, well, what you should do is, this event, you should do something like this. And he said, you don't want to do it. And my knee-jerk reaction was no. No, absolutely not. I don't want to do that. But in the half second it took me to reconsider, if I don't, who's gonna? And if they do it, and I don't agree with the way they did it, then I'm going to be kicking myself for not doing it. And especially if it takes off, then I'm really going to hate myself for not. So it was, I said yes, and I gave it a go. So then in 2023, we had our proof of concept, which was the scan off. So the SLAM scan off 2023. It was a short event, just a couple of days long, just before the expo itself, where we collected the data for the platforms that partook in the event. And then we compiled it, analyzed it that night, and then we presented it the next day, just a cursory. There was no performance review. There was not, they said they could do this and they did that, or critical critiques of performance. It was the supplying of the data sets to anybody that's interested in this technology so they can assess it on their own to whatever standard they feel is important, instead of just seeing my rhetoric and I think it's garbage. Well, somebody else doesn't. And that they're like, the performance of these systems varies greatly, because you've got people like Navis, like I said, 0.5 centimeter point cloud. But then you have others that are 2 to 3 centimeters quality, which for mapping purposes is fine by me. Again, that good enough phrase. And then things like modeling, it's not unsuited for. But then the other potentials for these systems are well, we'll get into that again too, aren't we? So like gaming and asset management and all these different facets of industry that need information of what's where, that stand to benefit from a single person walking through a site once, and now you can feed multiple tracks. So
it's interesting you say your rhetoric and what you put out there, because I think a lot of weight is held to one person's expert opinion who is kind of laser focused on one specific thing, right? So if you look at a Navis and you're doing surveys, or you're doing BIM modeling of a facility, a factory, a plant, something like that, it's a great tool, right? And it can come out as the winner in one specific test. But if you're looking to get inside of pipes, or you're looking to do something else, like, you can't take the backpack off and put it inside of a pipe that's only a foot wide.
Sure.
So although the BLK might have a diminished accuracy, like, it better suits that type of environment. But at the end of the day, you're right. If you just release a report and say this scanner is the winner, it's based off of that metric, or that vertical line of work that you're really focused on, and it does a disservice to just having the information out there.
Yes, absolutely. Introduces bias.
Well said.
Yeah.
The scan off, I think that was pretty cool. That's a great idea.
So that's the scan off. It naturally just turned into the Can Slam after that. Proof of concept went really well. We didn't have high participation, admittedly. So at the time, we identified 16 different companies that are doing internal mapping with mobile mapping and SLAM, and 3 of them showed up. Although it was only 3, but at the same time, it was really impactful. So Real IT represented Leica Geosystems with the BLK, BLK to go. Kuden, I think at the time they were Kuden Artisans. They came in and did a lovely little company in the fact that they don't make SLAM scanners. They built a development kit because they build SLAM algorithms. And everybody kept asking them, do you have a little starter kits? And then they put one together and they brought it with. So the neat little gimmick to introduce, because I'm like, they're not a SLAM scanner, they're a SLAM manufacturer, so you custom build your thing. And then the other one was Automap out of Australia, and they were a little bit hesitant because we are outside of their wheelhouse in the fact that they're meant for long distance data collection. And our course was really, really tiny. So they said, I'll tell you what, if you tack on another kilometer, we'll come. And God love the students that did it, because they went out and established their control network, and he came in and did the scan. But it beautifully represented some of the breadth of data collection that's out there. And it was fun to showcase. I've gotten reassurances that there's going to be higher performance this year, and we've got sources to get them if we want them. So I can't wait, because this one is going to be the one that actually has a lot more information brought in, so that we can actually start delivering value to
Sure.
a lot of different people. So that's the thing, is that it is presented at the Go Geomatics Expo initially. But one of the initiatives of this thing is to identify industries that stand to benefit. And then we present the information in a way that's relevant to them, so that we are not just touting this technology to reality capturists or to geomatics professionals. We're touting it to project managers, and we're touting it to department heads. And so that they're aware that this information exists, so that they know that they can have that spatial awareness if they wanted it. One of my favorite quotes for reality capture was micromanagement at a macro scale. And it is a really effective way of enabling that type of awareness. And then with things like artificial intelligence, that's really the pain point where we're at now. We're able to collect things really well with a good enough to awesome standard, but then we still use humans to pull out the information and actually get all make sense out of it. So the more we can involve machines, the faster it's going to turn around. The faster it turns around, the more we know, the more we act.
This portion of the program is sponsored by Altera Central. Altera Central is the authorized premier Trimble dealer for survey, mapping, GIS, forensics, and marine equipment in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arizona, and MGIS in New Mexico. Our good friend Scott Spears, he's been traveling a lot.
It looks like it.
Yeah, he's got some territory to cover these days. They have 8 offices and provide sales, rentals, repairs, and support for the full line of Trimble products: GPS, GNSS receivers, robotic total stations, scanners, Seiko accessories, mobile mapping system, used equipment, and field supplies, including our good friends at Juniper receivers and tablets, LaserTech True Pulse rangefinders, and microdrone UAVs.
They also offer field supplies and can deliver them right to your job site.
I think we both know that. We've used them in the past.
We have, and they have helped us on a job site.
Oh, every single time. Finally, they offer used Trimble survey and mapping instruments such as GPS systems, robotic total stations, scanners, and more, all available on their website at alteracentral.com. Most importantly, all of this is backed by a service department with one of the fastest turnarounds in the nation. Love the folks at Altera Central.
Absolutely. Visit alteracentral.com.
Yeah. So we talked about a lot of really technical things already. Let's reel it back in just a little bit, because there's a number of people listening that probably have heard the term reality capture, who knows, a gazillion times, right? But does anybody what is reality capture? How do you define reality capture, Alex?
Right. We've been rolling this one over because there has been debate. Like, reality capture is not remote sensing. Well, why not? Well, because it's not. But I think it is. If you break down remote sensing, it is the perception
it's part
from
of the umbrella.
somewhere away. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have photogrammetric processes for satellite information, as much as we have satellite LiDAR that's coming into the market. Whatever you can do on the ground, you can do in space for the most part. Reality capture is the collection of 3D information. So I guess remote sensing.
That is a broad net.
That is a broad net.
Yep.
Which is why that line is so convoluted. So do we attend remote sensing conferences? Yes, but we're remote capturists.
Yep.
I think the term reality capture probably started as the guys like Alex, or maybe not Alex, you have more survey background than I do, but guys like me that were not surveyors. And, I'm an expert at LiDAR. I give me any system, I can figure out how these things work, and I can, figure out how to get the data or what went wrong regardless of the system. But, we would always fall underneath of surveyors, and we're the stepchildren that aren't actually specialists. But I'm like, dude, if we're just measuring, if you give me a LiDAR test, and I'm going to get a higher score on the LiDAR test than you're on the survey test. I don't know what to tell you. So the term reality capture probably just spawns from that island of misfit kids that are like me, where it's like, we're not surveyors.
Yeah.
What are we?
Well, look at it this way. I mean, it's very it parallels GIS in a lot of ways.
It does. And that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, because there was this GIS group of GIS nerds, right, doing their thing. They're like, well, it's not
but
really
we're really not
surveyors. Yeah. Does it have to be survey accurate? No. We're kind of the redheaded stepchild of surveyors.
Yeah, but is that going to be another sub genre, sub market of surveying that then
I don't know,
leapfrog surveying, and then you guys
has.
I know GIS has, but
GIS
do you see reality? And that's a question for
reality capture.
Do you see reality capture leapfrogging survey, and then you guys are left in the
it's already
in the wake again?
It's already happening.
I know, but when is it going to be?
You guys have standards and laws.
Well,
and we're gonna get into that
do
too.
Whatever I want.
But my point is that where you see it going and following in that line of, as far as a surveyor's perspective, another thing that we didn't jump on boat and jump on board
1,000%. Yeah, it's a threat to the survey profession in a lot of ways. Yep. At least I can tell you a lot of old school surveyors look at it that way.
Well, I think it should be more of the goal should be mashing it back together instead
GIS,
of
reality capture, surveyors, geospatial. It should all fall under one umbrella.
Yeah,
I really struggle with that we're a threat somehow, because my data can't be proven to anything without surveyors. Like, it's just data.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that just a little bit more, because I agree with you 100%, of course. But Alex, you got something you want to say as well?
Well, no, it was very much to that. I mean, reality capture, we can tell you where the rock is, but the land surveyor's got to kick it over.
Interesting. You mentioned remote sensing. Let's make sure we define what remote sensing is as well. Who wants to take that one?
Yep. Remote sensing.
Those are me here, guys.
to perceive from far away. It is the ability to collect information from lasers, images, radar data. It's just the ability to collect information and then interpret that, typically in a geospatial sense.
So is a terrestrial scanner remote sensing?
Yes.
Perfect.
Sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
What isn't remote sensing then in the 3D world?
I mean, if you're collecting topo with a let's use a Trimble
robot. Yeah, a robot.
Is that remote sensing, or is that not necessarily remote sensing?
Is that because you're holding it? You're there.
You're collecting one point at a time,
and you're holding it, not getting it.
In some way, it still is remote, because you're pinging that location to the total station or pinging it to satellite data, right? So in some ways, it still is remote. I think probably the term remote sensing just started when, like, in the 80s, and like technology.
Maybe
when we were drawing chain and trying to convince ourselves that total stations were legitimate.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. So, Alex, one of the things you mentioned, people know that when you're a guest on the show, we send out a questionnaire and ask some bio information, that type thing. And one of the things you mentioned in yours that I thought was really, really interesting is you said that reality capture can assess the present, protect people, help plan for the future, and preserve the past. Explain that comment just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, capture the present. That is exactly what we do when we go out there. It's not like we can go scan the past while we're standing there. But that is the essence of it, capturing the presence so that the present can be assessed. So there, for example, Automap is a good example in the fact that they are primarily into the mining industry. So they pride themselves on being able to mark them out so that they can actually perceive these mines from outside of its terrestrial context. But then also now they have a plan they've got a rescue plan. If you have another collapse, they know where to dig. They've got a better perception of where things are. Companies, I was trying to remember the name of them. They're based in Calgary, and I know there's at least two others, but they take geospatial information and then introduce simulation models to reenact how people interact in those spaces given certain scenarios, like, I don't know, shootings. And then being able to predict how the crowd is going to go, because they take surveillance data from other incidences, map out the people, do the math on how they behave, and then they put that into the predictive models for the spaces that you scan. So I mean, even just safety inspections, knowing what's where, what isn't somewhere when it's supposed to be up to code. I mean, it's a great form of accountability because it's a permanent record, especially when it's done at strategic milestones, so that you've got that running record. But it also allows that thing where you can see through walls. As long as you're able to capture it while it was exposed, you're able to model it. And now with things like augmented reality, you know exactly where something is before you endanger yourself by trying to disturb it.
Well, you said exactly might be that relative term,
yeah,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Sorry.
No, we're knocking on double digits here. But to kind of bring this back and maybe take another step back where you mentioned before when you were originally talking about the different industries, and you kind of mentioned about 3 of those. You mentioned earlier about video games. Like, talk a little bit about those different industries and how reality capture is really transforming around, and what don't we know, maybe from your perspective of where this is going and where it can be utilized.
Right. Yeah. Well, when I started at COGS, terrestrial LiDAR was not a part of the course. Terrestrial LiDAR was introduced in my last year. So it was this new technology for me that I got to learn about. And then inside of that, they said, photogrammetry is used by some people, but it's not quite there yet, or it's not mainstream. And so then within that, learning that and going into industry was a year later, and all of a sudden just the world has changed. I graduated from COGS where you look through the sites. You always trust the sites because the auto target could go wrong. And now they've got, total stations that don't have sites. You have to rely on the auto targeting. When it comes to the reality capture portion of it, so LiDAR is obviously one of them. Photogrammetry was the other. Close range photogrammetry was something that I ended up getting just into as a hobby because of the fact that I've got a coffee cup that I'm very fond of. My wife made it, and she's ashamed of it, but I love it. And when I broke it, I already had a 3D scan of it, so at least it's in the garbage, but I've got the memories. Eventually, it would be nice to put that into a virtual environment that I could go visit. But photogrammetry.
Wait, I'm sorry, you can't go on, Alex. You want to visit the 3D model of the coffee cup to relive your experience with that?
Metaverse,
surround yourself with
the metaverse.
Yeah, exactly, the metaverse.
I thought you were going to say send it somewhere, and they'll make you another one because you have a 3D model.
I don't like clutter, man.
Awesome. Hey, just live virtually, man.
Just live virtually. I guess you don't need the coffee. You just need to go to a space where you can relive your experience with that.
And it brings me back. That's right. But yeah, awesome. My children is another one. So scanning them as they progress so that I've got 3D models of them and actually to be able to display them one-to-one. I
don't need to scan Evelyn. She lives with me,
but she's there. It's the size thing that changes day to day.
But it's a snapshot of time.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, buddy. We got a stick, and we mark with a marker on the stick how she grows. I know that's the olden days. But
now
I'm sorry,
your kid.
I need a little nostalgia. It's the same stick where my wife's marks are. In the 80s when she grew, I just turned the stick over and now hers are, can't you at least give me something?
Just make a 3D model of her.
He's got
every year on her birthday, scan her.
Is that considered an analog twin?
Digital twin that is an analog twin. Yes.
Analog twin.
Yes, exactly.
Alex, you touched on your experience going from COGS into real world, and photogrammetry was it's maybe a thing, it's not really a thing, and then getting into it. So, it's a real challenge for us to keep up with technology, and I think a lot of companies really struggle with that. I think the question isn't not how do you do it, but when do you recommend companies start prioritizing the guys like us that are kind of R&D, and we kind of spend a bunch of time on LinkedIn each week and looking at what's new and who's doing what? At what point do you recommend companies start prioritizing that over production necessarily?
Utilization, my friend.
What was that saying? If you're not innovating, you're dying.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's tough because you could have somebody just go through and try to keep up to date with that kind of stuff. The passion really is it though, because passion makes you dig. So if you've got a curiosity, Gaussians, sorry, actually Nerf was my favorite example for that one. So neural radiance fields, when they started coming out and you started seeing the models that would come out on LinkedIn, I was fascinated by that. And being able to chase that, and then chasing that led me to Gaussians, and then Gaussians suddenly came on the scene again, which is funny because apparently it was a technology that was developed in like the 80s. It just made a resurgence after Nerf. And so it is hard because the fact that they're coming out of left field, and they're not even necessarily coming from the geomatics industry, like reality capture, reality capture by Epic Games, a photogrammetric platform created by a gaming company for gaming assets, but we're using it for aerial photography because it's good. Like, why wouldn't I?
Wow.
And that is the thing. So and that kind of bleeds back into the technology and what's coming, because the nerves and Gaussians, they are awesome in representation. They're just, for things like the Gaussians, it's not recommended you do measurements, but people are aspiring for that to become a thing. So who even knows whether photogrammetry is going to be relevant in 5 years? Because with things like artificial intelligence helping us figure this stuff out, it would be lovely if I just showed them a picture of my kids and it just built a 3D model of them. And then, that's the way it worked.
Right.
But either way, we're going to have to move that perspective. But is artificial intelligence going to replace the processes that we use now that are still easier than they were, but are still kind of niched in their knowledge and expertise? Is taking a 3D recording going to be as easy as taking a picture?
I think so.
At some point in time.
Yeah.
Can I ask a dumb question real quick?
Well, you are not so smart, Sean.
Yeah,
so
I know. So this is just a question. But
yes.
do you really, and maybe this is not right, but is there a way where it's just going to be a LiDAR and it's going to be point based, and then AI just makes it a picture, and then it's all
the opposite?
Instead of taking a picture and turning it into a 3D model, it's just all
baby.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Already happening, baby. Already happening. So,
but is that where, like, I'm like, all the pictures are just going to start with points and point clouds and all this, and then go back to a picture to put it? Because if you need it to get there anyway, why don't you just start there and then regress instead of trying to use AI to take a picture into a 3D model? Why don't you just all 3D and go back? Is that crazy?
I don't. You know what? Honestly, I don't know what crazy is right now.
What do you say? What do you say about that, Sean?
Exactly.
It's a combination of the two, right? So, in mobile units, when you're mapping with a vehicle mounted unit, Regal or Leica, Pegasus, whatever it is, you're collecting imagery at the same time most of the time, right? So artificial intelligence is really good at capturing features and objects through the photos, but their XYZ accuracy is not super great. So then what you do is you take that photo, you capture the feature, and then you use the LiDAR to determine the XYZ of the feature.
Yeah. Location and dimensionality.
Yep.
So we're living in we're living at this point in a 4D world, right?
Minimum.
Interesting.
This is where you guys start to lose me a little bit. I mean, I get I always thought 4D was like when you're watching the movie at Disney World and then they make the smell come on, and like that's the fourth dimension.
That was clever marketing for sure.
That was awesome.
It was really clever marketing back then.
So my understanding of 4D is XYZ plus time, right?
Yep.
So is there something beyond that?
Sure. Yeah. If you're collecting a mobile mapping platform, then you can collect with as many sensors as you want. Locate the data locate the location of the sensor as the information was taken, and then you can imbue that into the scene. So thermal cameras, for example, you could run thermal cameras to go along with. Yeah, exactly. And so,
or humidity, or I don't know what else is
light
after
intensity,
that,
or sound, or
Interesting.
light or color.
There's also probably a fifth dimension, but humans are only 400,000 years old as a species, so we haven't really figured out that much. Every measurement we do is based on electromagnetic spectrum, right? So there's probably infinite dimensions, and we have no freaking clue.
That is an interesting thought. Just what are we going to what is remote sensing going to be once we start playing with particles? Well, more.
Which, back to the original question, at what
Starting
point
to feel
do
dumb, aren't you?
companies start to like? At what point At what point in time do companies start to prioritize the R&D over the utilization? And interpreting your answer, it wasn't really like a time constraint as much as it was a person constraint, right?
Yep.
So you're saying if you find the right person and they're passionate about R&D and solving problems, getting ahead of the curve, let that person do that, right?
Yeah, very much so. It's kind of a little bit of everything, right? Because the passionate person will go out and find the information, but they might not necessarily be good at putting it all together. That is a really interesting question, in the fact that it would depend, I guess, because some industries like geomatics, it doesn't take much imagination to figure out what the application is.
Right.
However, in the gaming industry, you could do a laser scan to get yourself a mesh to build an environment, or you could use Gaussians to approximate it, build boundaries, and go. So, I mean, it really depends on the work and what you want out of it. And knowing what resources are available is probably the most fundamental part of that, because if you don't have all the pieces, you won't be able to put together the puzzle. Not necessarily, but generally. But then, you need that person that takes those tools, lays them out on the table, and says, well, you can use this for this and that for that, and this can replace that, and this is faster than that. It's less accurate, but it's still intolerance. And finding those fits.
So how does one become that person?
Yeah.
That you're describing, right? Because there's not like, you can't go and get a degree in reality capture, right? And you mentioned colleges, and like when you mentioned being in at university, Alex, where they were just bringing on certain classes and things like that.
Yeah.
Whether it be photogrammetry or whatever. But even at that point, that stuff was so outdated. Right. So it's like now, in colleges, like these universities move at such a snail's pace. It's like, steering a battleship, like getting this technology into their curriculum is a bit of a challenge, and it is advancing at such a rapid pace. I mean, is it even feasible to offer a college degree in reality capture?
Right. Well, I think a really good point to that is mobile mapping just by itself.
Sure.
If a school wanted to teach a student how to do mobile mapping, depending on the platform, that could be tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. I don't know many programs beyond flight school that have those kinds of of pieces of equipment lying around. But the problem is, again, that the technology is growing really, really fast. So, I mean, they could buy it today and it's outdated tomorrow. And now they're right back to the drawing board, because not only did they put it into a brand new efficient package, they changed everything. And now it computes faster, but you got to go through the training because what you knew is no longer valid. So, the technology is changing really fast, and there's huge potential for it, but everybody's got to get retrained. So when it comes to the education side of it, that's
crazy.
Again, one of the reasons why the committee and the Can Slam are doing what they're doing. So we recognize that as just an industry pain point. And so what we wanted to do with the Can Slam is exactly that. Bring students in, first introduce them to it. Hey guys, there's this technology that's taking your mapping techniques and doing it in 1/10 the time. You might want to come see these. Get them introduced to them, know what's available, know what the performance is, who the players are, get them a little bit of familiarity so that even if so that when they leave school, or better yet, when they're going for their capstones, they can start innovating right away. They can start doing things that other people never would have thought of because they just didn't know the technology existed. And yeah, because technology is changing so fast, we should be using it. There's no reason for us not to be using it other than the learning curve and the cost. So whatever we can get, or whatever we can do to get around those, is just better for everybody.
But does that pose a problem? Like, by the time you communicate and get the awareness of what the technology can do, has it already changed?
The fundamentals, luckily enough, are not dissimilar from when it started. You know, SLAM was probably the most interesting addition to that, because now instead of just known point to no point with an interpreted path between, it's known point, interpreted path with a bunch of interpolated data. So it's, you know, just another layer.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Another scary layer, because SLAM, all of them are black box right now. And until the industry pushes back and, you know, says, no, we're not going to buy this thing until we can see what it's doing, you know, there is some, you know, you have your control points, but then you don't really know what's happening in between your control points because there's no report or nothing's given to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That is scary. For sure. So what do you guys think? So like, you know, with like GIS, for example, again, I'm comparing, you know, reality capture to GIS in this case. It took them a long time, but now there's the GISP, right? Which is a certification for the GIS folks.
Well, I mean, Sean can say he can do whatever he wants.
Well, do you foresee the need? I mean, I definitely think there's a need, but do you foresee there being some sort of reality capture certification that, you know, gives it some teeth? You know what I mean?
I don't right now. I don't see it, because if our data is delivered to surveyors, surveyors will always hold some checkpoints back and compare what I'm delivering against those checkpoints. If I'm delivering it to engineers, they know what they're looking at, and they say, "Nah, this pipe is not this measurement. That doesn't fit." Right? So when we're delivering to these entities that have standards and laws and practical exams about what you can and cannot do, you know, there is a check in what I'm doing, right? And then anything else, you know, if I warp data in reality capture and it's going to, you know, a game, who cares, right?
Hey there, Geoholics. Let's talk about TopoDot. TopoDot is a comprehensive solution to manage point cloud data, assess data quality, and extract topographies, models, analysis, and other forms of digital twins. Geospatial data acquired along road, rail, utility, and other land survey applications present unique processing challenges. The TopoDot production process is designed to meet these challenges with the right balance between automation and quality, thereby ensuring complex project requirements are met at the lowest possible cost. TopoDot's applications are set up to make sure the quality assurance and control are always part of the extraction workflow, ensuring that deliverables can meet high standards while also maintaining a productive and efficient project schedule. Digital twin production at the lowest cost possible. To find out more, visit topodot.com.
Yeah. Sean, here's what I'll say though. Like in your world, that makes perfect sense, right? Like your deliverables are going to licensed professionals, but there are a lot of people, and I know this for a fact, you know, doing reality capture whose deliverables aren't going to a licensed professional. They're going to, you know, whatever, the end user, you know, being the contract, whatever. It's just not a licensed professional. So, I mean, I being a surveyor, and Alex, you can relate to this as well. I mean, obviously, I think that there is still a very strong need for surveyors when it comes to reality capture, especially if you want to constrain those models.
Only slightly biased.
Only slightly biased. But there's a lot of people out there doing reality capture that don't think for a second that they need a surveyor to do this stuff.
But Alex said it earlier, just like it always comes up, it depends on that use case and what you're actually using it for and what those expectations are.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
I think what Alex is doing, what the committee's doing, CanSlam, all of these other entities, I think we're getting to a point where in the next 2 years, the repository of what data is good for what is going to exist, and everybody's going to have visible eyes to be able to see there's comparisons out there. At some point in time, the conversation will shift to what can you do with this and what can you deliver with this, as opposed to how accurate is this, how efficient is it, all of those types of questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know that a regulating board is going to be able to keep up
Well,
with it.
The interesting thing about reality capture is the fact that we capture reality, which means that if you have any need to perceive reality, we have an application for you. So it means that standardizations would become exceptionally niched because it would very much depend on the people that are using them in the downstream processes. So I would love to tote the complete scan that gives you all the information that you need, but now I'm over marketing for somebody that needs a floor plan. I've got a digital twin and you can do anything you want with that, but I only wanted a floor plan. So
sure. So reality capture basically is another tool in the toolbox, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's just the completeness of it that is so appealing to me. Like I said, back in the day, you'd survey a building, you'd have to shoot the corners, and then you'd shoot all the relevant stuff. Well, now you just set up, you zap everything, you fill in the blanks, and then if you need that data, then you've got it. Any questions? No.
Yeah.
But for the like Sean said, but it still depends on who you're sending it to, and it's their responsibility to know what they're getting and verify how they need to based on that application.
But they need to know that going into it based on the contract language,
right? And it's still basically handing that verification responsibility to somebody else instead of having it come packaged and like similar. You, as a registered land surveyor, you hand me, a professional engineer, those points. I'm going to rely on your stamp. I can't rely on Sean's shit because it's whatever he felt like doing that day.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a broad stroke, but
Sean's got a response, by the way.
Sure.
In all fairness, Alex said that you're capturing somebody's reality. So in your survey reality, that point might be right here. In my reality capture reality, it's 7 feet that way, bro.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the reality capture term is doing a disservice to the actual math and the processing and the knowledge behind what is actually happening.
Yeah,
right. By bundling it all under reality capture, it's kind of oversimplifying.
And we all know the real world is I'm going to know that tree is there. Sean's going to send me something that shows that it's there. You're going to send me something that says no, it's actually 2 feet over. And I'm like, no, dude, it's I can see it. He shows it to me. It's right there. Don't tell me it's
Point being, Sean's version of reality and my version of reality
might as well be on different planets.
2 feet difference there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the question I know that everybody listening wants to ask, or wants me to ask, is what's the end game here, and how do we all get along, right? Whether it be the GIS professionals, the professional land surveyors, the reality capture folks, how do we all play in the same sandbox and just have a great time together?
Communicate. Even the reality capture, I'm curious as to what their job is going to look like when robotics becomes more mainstream. Am I going to get my R2 unit, or am I in an office going to get a call from a robot because it can't perceive the thing that it's looking at? What is that going to look like? So reality capture almost naturally gives to GIS, as well, at least in my world, because that is the main product that we put out most of the time is GIS product. So I mean, they're a natural step, a natural component to reality capture in some cases. I don't know. Reality capture can feed them all.
Sure.
So I don't see why wouldn't be able to play the same box, because reality capture builds the box.
Yep. I love that.
Go ahead, Sean.
I agree with Alex. It's communication. In my decade of LiDAR and just, strictly LiDAR, working for surveyors, working for engineers, working for land developers, whoever the client is, DOTs, whatever, I never have had a disagreement with a surveyor. I've never, because it's very simple. What do you need from me to show you that the data is as accurate as I'm saying it is?
Mhm.
And how do I need to break that down, or what do I need to show? The problem that I run into is not surveyors, it's other entities, business development or engineers or whoever it is that
Mhm.
thinks that reality capture can do all these things that it can't do, because it's got to fit survey here, it's got to fit engineering standards here.
Mhm.
Like it can't do all of these things that you're saying. So I agree, it's communication. That's how everybody plays nicely in the sandbox together.
Clear
Sure.
expectations.
Kind of knowing, the expectations, like knowing what knowing what you're going to get before you get it. So,
Yeah.
but Sean brought up the point, like you send the thing to the engineer. He knows
Yeah.
it's not, the pipe's not that size because it exists. He knows it's the actual size and he can take it for what it's worth, I guess.
Yeah. So, if you look at the definition of land surveying, right, again, coming from a land surveyor, it's basically, measuring the Earth's surface, right? So when reality capture is taking place in its various forms, you are measuring the Earth's surface and everything attached to the Earth and so on and so forth. Should that be done under the guidance of a professional land surveyor in that case?
Well, I'm jumping in here like I shouldn't be, but I think
I love the passion, Sean. This is great.
Well, you just talked about a whole bunch of other things that remote sensing does or can do, and you just said only 2, maybe 3 of those Ds, not all 7 of them or whatever we're at. Like, isn't there a difference there where you're just limiting it to the surface,
I'm just
and
asking.
these guys are providing a whole bunch of other stuff with it? Like,
I don't have the answer. I'm just curious.
I think you're putting a lot of onus on a land surveyor to be able to determine the accuracy of all the other things that remote sensing can offer. But I'll kick it to the smart guys.
Yeah,
I get where you're coming from in that, Kent, too, because I've seen it. I've seen the example that you guys were alluding to earlier, where a reality capture company or consultant or whatever it is goes out and scans something and gives a 2D plan or floor plan or whatever it is, and then we need this permitted, so now we actually need an ALTA done, right? And then we go do an ALTA on it, and it doesn't match what they have, and it's like, well, I mean, that beam isn't structurally sound enough to hold your second floor in place. So I don't know what you paid a reality capture guy to do.
Yeah.
But you didn't get what you needed or what you paid for either. So, communication. But yeah, I guess there's a bigger piece of consumer education that the industry is kind of missing as a whole.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and I think that's cross industry, as a matter of fact, because when I asked that last question, Alex, you said communication. That was your first response. Communication is what's going to bind us all together. And Sean, you kind of jumped in on that as well. But I think that, just like you said, Sean, education is the thing. Like surveyors can educate reality capture folks can educate surveyors, and you loop the GIS people into it. Everybody just needs to be open to being educated.
But you're also still talking about all the people you just mentioned are still in this bubble that can all know what each other is talking about, but unless it gets out to the dumb guys like the engineers or the developers or those people, nothing what you said gets it outside of that bubble.
Yeah.
And how do we do that?
I think I have the answer. Follow Geoholics TikTok. Right? Because the problem is we are all fascinated by this information. I'm sure all of us would pick up a book about the history of measurements and we'd all be very interested by it, but the general public is not going to care or do anything. So once that education is formatted in a way that's entertaining, it becomes something more digestible to the masses, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, and maybe kind of a little bit of a segue, and I always like bringing this up about how do you manage a business and how do you value like what you're providing when you may be providing 1 billion points when all is needed is 5, or you're providing all this information and the guy really actually needs a surveyor to tell me that the tree is there, not over there, or whatever it might be. Like, and this is a good question for Alex. How do you build a business around what we're
Reality
talking
capture, yeah.
around reality capture. And is it just video game guys, or what do you do?
No, I mean reality capture. One thing that it's really good at is, like I was saying earlier, is taking a 1 hour process and turning it into a fraction of that. Some of the measurements that we do, from total stations, you've got to observe them. You do all your shots, and then you do your closing shot, and it was no good. Ah, crap! Now I got to do it all over again, and you're blah, 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 blah. Okay, now we're good.
Yeah.
Move on. There's none of that now. There's you get your scan, you quantify it, you qualify it, and then you do your measurements on it, and then so there's multiple saving points there, and it was one of those things of how do you quantify savings of a thing that never happened. That is where the key is. Like, so yeah, we already have quantified processes where we can say, it used to take you this long, but with reality capture, it's going to take you a quarter of that. So there's direct cost savings through time, but then there's also direct cost savings through preventative maintenance and lack of return. Oh, sorry, not lack of return, but lack of revisit. I was saying again, if I drive out for 4 hours and I forget something, I've got to go drive 4 hours back to go get the one thing. And you're darn right, I'm kicking myself the whole time I'm driving, but somebody's got to do it. If you go out there and you collect it with reality capture and then you come back, you've got a much better chance of not having to go, which is a huge turnaround because you've just saved yourself a day of driving, which is a day faster of getting the information back to the people that are making the decisions. If those people making the decisions question your readings for any reason, reality capture provides them with the context. So if they see my measurement and they think that I'm full of it, well, great. You go online, you access the data set. The point is right there. You can see it in its full dimensionality, where I took my measurements from, where I'm saying it is in relation to everything else, and then they can reason it in their own minds. Of course, it comes down to like the quantifiable quality of the model.
Sure. Yeah. What would you like to add to that, Sean?
Business analytics, right? So we're talking about measuring how long something used to take with one piece of technology versus how long it takes with this new piece of technology, right? So a lot of, I want to say, gray-bearded surveyors and gray-haired surveyors. It's both of you.
Some shade.
It's funny. I actually just got my beard trimmed today, and I saw gray, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's happening!" Anyway, they run off of what it was and what it's, and you get this gut feel, and you stop tracking the micro steps of these operations, right? So when you go out to a job site, you've got your mobilization time to get from the office to the site, right? Then you've got your setup time. How long does it take you to check in? How long does it take you to get all the shots? And what type of shots are you getting? The more you track those individual data points as individual times, and I get it, nobody wants to do that in their timesheet every Friday, and nobody. The more you do that, the more you can chase technology in an efficient way. So, you want to lower your margins by 5% or whatever it is. Get real nitty gritty and meticulous about how you're tracking time and jobs and types of jobs, and start chasing those bigger chunks and say, like, oh, if I could save 10 minutes on this one phase per job, I'm going to get this much more money. What piece of technology can do that for me? Yep. Then we're talking about the time of something that never happened, right? So a lot of the business analytics in reality capture and LiDAR, the photogrammetry, all of that is that question gets asked a lot, right? So if you're tracking the time savings, when does that stop? When do you stop caring about that, right? And I always defer to the life cycle of a sensor, right? So if you go buy a new Trimble unit, what's your life cycle, guys? How long is that going to be on the shelf? How long until it gets replaced? What would you say?
A couple of years?
Yeah, I'd say 3.
3 years. Okay. So that's how long you track that efficiency that you're saving in that particular phase or in that particular time, because after that, it's null and void. You're going to buy something different. You're going to head in a different direction.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
It is, and as from the business side, it's still like you said, you're tracking or you're trying to show value in something that doesn't currently exist, or you get into this ROI, and it's almost like a figment or a fantasy ROI. But if it could exist, here's what you could be saving. And it really cool. And then kind of same example. By the time you implement that technology, you would be saving this. Well, then that's already new again, and that 3 years took by to get me into my workflow, and now it's obsolete again.
Yeah. I mean, good stuff.
I mean, it's an ever evolving thing, but
it's something that we've never.
Alex's point is it ties into other conversations we have of. That's going to just become the new workflow. And those firms that aren't just scanning and capturing everything one time and then worrying about it later are the ones that are going to lose out because they're so inefficient. Like you said, I missed that one point. I'm going back out.
Right.
It'll be more about the things that they can't do and other guys don't have that issue. They're going to hire you versus another guy, and that guy never has to go back out and catch something else. And you're the guy that's like, I meant to deliver that, but I got to send him out because he forgot to hit that culvert invert. And, and you're the guy that never has to worry about it. They may not see that cost savings, but it will benefit because you're the guy he's going to go to.
Sure. Yeah.
Am I off base there, guys, or is that kind of dialed in?
Pretty good.
No, I think you're dead on. And it makes me think of our good friend, Aaron Mikolenko, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, exactly.
So Aaron, I mean, he's like, this guy's always way ahead of his time, right? I don't know if you guys know him on LinkedIn or whatever, but Aaron Mikolenko, follow him for sure. He for as long as I've known him, he'll go out there, with his GPS to do the boundary, of course. He'll throw his drone up and then he'll run the scanner around it, assuming it's just like your typical 1 acre Alta survey, whatever. And he brings all that information back to the office, and he's got more information than he can ever dream of. And just his workflow is unbelievable. He's become so efficient.
And but he's ahead and getting the old guys like, I'm not going to say you, but the old traditional survey firms to put that into the workflow. And by the time they actually finally adopt it, well, then now
that workflow's changed.
That workflow's changed, and you can just collect that from satellite data, and you didn't even need to put the thing on the ground in the first place.
They're already collecting with outdated tools anyway, so might as well just keep going.
True.
Interesting.
I think I disagree with you on one point, though, Sean. I think you do see it in cost, right? So you've got a complexity factor into your budget, into your gut check of how long things are going to take and what you should budget for it.
Yeah,
and
sure.
if there's a ton of stuff in there, you're like, I'm going to add a little bit more to this one because this looks like a headache, right?
Yeah.
And the more that you are capturing all of that data up front, the less you have to worry about that. So I think there is some cost to that.
That's just hard to quantify.
Correct. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I
very
mean,
true.
and I can quantify pain in the ass factor, and it's somewhere between 18 and 48%.
That factor left when I did.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's also not project specific; it's client specific as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's client specific, and it's those that always seem to come back.
I guess I need to lower my factor though, because if you're saying the high end's 48%, I need to tone mine down a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are.
That.
Yeah. If you're not doubling some of your fees for some of your clients, you're probably missing out.
Yeah.
That's a whole other show.
Oh, it definitely is. All right, we got to wrap up. We could talk about this forever, but I do want to ask a couple other. I love this last one.
Yep.
And it's a great people to ask. Where are we going? Where do you see this evolving? We talked about a lot of the things, but everything we talked about is happening right now. What's not happening right now, Alex? I'll let you go first. Where do you see us going in the next 5 years?
It depends on how fast robotics goes, because if they are going to end up being a staple of society, it would only make sense to actually put mapping equipment on them. They're already going to have surveillance devices attached to them anyway. So whether or not they're actually going to play a role in the mapping of urban settings, autonomous vehicles, no different. We keep trying to make them operate on their own, but I don't see why we don't have something like an air traffic control system for them for urban settings. If you take amalgamated data and actually put it into a unified set, you're able to glean better information. And the fact that each one operates independently without communicating to the other just seems dangerous. Why wouldn't they? And so,
That's a really good point.
so between remote sensing, so I know that there is initiatives right now to get 30 centimeters down to 15 or 10, which would be amazing because a lot of cursory reconnaissance could be done with that information. You'd still need people to get down there for the nitty gritty, but I see a lot more automation. I see a lot more potential for filling in for people using technology. And then, but at the same time, I mean, if regulations stay where they are, things are going to be pretty much status quo with laser scanners. So yeah, I am interested to see where it's going to go, only because I am just as sure as I made myself to be.
What's your take, Sean?
I got two, sorry, and they're long belabored points. I'm really sorry, guys. I was gonna poo-poo all over Alex and chasing 30 centimeter down to 15 until literally like 2 days ago we had an error with one of our drones, and I pulled publicly available LiDAR data to supplement, and everything went fine because I had that data to then go match this data too.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, actually, if you did have more accurate data widely available, then you could just supplement in areas needed or areas that have changed with latest commercial available satellite imagery, and just say, hey, this area is different, go survey that. Sorry. I think the quality of life and entertainment aspects of reality capture, quote unquote, are going to make the cost of people who know what they're doing go through the frickin' roof.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, we're just starting to scratch that surface with AR, XR, VR, all of these other things.
Exciting.
And like, there's a studio here in Orlando that is instead of having a movie set or like going to location, they just put it up on the big screen behind them. It's a wall of like 800 monitors. View Studios, just Google it. It's just worth looking at and seeing because it's pretty cool. But there's reality capture that can go into those monitors. So instead of having to do a movie scene or a set that takes place in San Francisco, you go capture it with a ladybug and then put it on the monitor. You're there, so you're saving time and money and entertainment. The movies that we're watching are having reality capture aspect into it. And those types of things, as people who have been doing this for survey and engineering purposes, as the Hollywoods and the Apples and all these other companies start to demand people with these skill sets, it's going to be a mass exodus, and the price for the price for people with this knowledge base is going to go through the roof. That's my guess.
Well, the gaming industry, it's actually it's great you mentioned that, because there is at least two companies, both of which I can't remember the name of, that send people all over the world. Yeah, they send people all over the world to literally go scan mundane objects. So they will, and then they document. Yep. I found it in an arid desert in Arizona, and they geographically tag these things so that the gaming developers can then go to their AI tools and say, "Build me a Arctic tundra scene with mountains and snowmen and some penguins and la 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 la." And they're not generating it; they're not making it up. They're pulling it from a library of tens of thousands of real world objects.
That's crazy town.
To piggyback off.
Where's that library, by the way? But go ahead, Sean.
Sketchfab. To piggyback off that, you can get a structured light scanner. They're like $30,000, $50,000, even as low as $10,000 for a lower end one, right? Just scan objects in your house, random stuff, your vape, your air canister, your fish tank, whatever it is, right? Put it on Sketchfab, sell it for $1, right? And like, so at some point in time, it's going to get bought for some video game or something, right? Wow. And it just,
that's crazy.
It's already happening.
Great for that, yeah. I like it.
Well, and what you're saying is it will get bought by AI, basically, because you're going to say, "Hey, AI, go find me this
and charge my
Correct.
credit card to get it as long as it's not more than $5, and then it's just
Yeah, and actually,
mailbox money.
Sketchfab in particular has a checkable box now that says "Don't use my stuff for AI sourcing," because
Wow.
they're on top of it.
Sourcing.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Oh, the
So
world we live in.
Is this
Sean.
still? Are you still saying? You said it, I think, right when we first started, Alex. But is the mailman really going to be able to come and drop my mail off? And when he does it, he looks in my mailbox and then scans my entire inside of my house. Is that going to happen?
Probably.
Not from the ground. INSAR is a
What's the mailman doing in your house, Sean?
Are you
sure?
Question for my wife, I
Evelyn
guess.
look like
Why
the
he's
mailman?
looking is my question.
He's just there to get the lice out of Sean's beard, right?
Yeah, right. Just with the little lice comb.
All right, one more question then, Sean. You can
Go for
close
it.
us out here.
Go for it.
So anybody listening that's maybe hearing about reality capture for the first time is like, you know what, this might be something I need to get involved with. What advice do you have for folks like that?
Network. Like reality capture. I mean, even at my university, they covered it. There was a few courses on it, but it was all dealt in theoretical, so there's no hands-on. There's some colleges out there that provide these programs now. So the Center of Geographic Sciences has a LiDAR course. The Southern Alberta Institute of Technology has a LiDAR course. A few other schools, BCIT, but yeah, they are finding the good ones. Because like you said, anybody, it's almost like anybody these days can take a scanner and actually run it. And it looks really good when you're done. So just, finding people that know what they're doing, is networking. If you can't go to school, find somebody who knows.
Love it. What do you got, Sean? Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, piggyback off of that, networking, let go of whatever fears and ego you have and just put yourself out there. Ask for the help, ask for the information, ask how you did this, how you did that. Because that opens so many freaking doors.
I do love how
Right
open
on.
most people are in reality capture community talking about the stuff they're up to, because I don't know any reality capturists that don't love what they do.
Yeah. So before we let you go, Alex, how do we find out, or how do our listeners find out more about the committee or the CanSlam?
So the committee, we're available on LinkedIn, as well as the CanSlam Circuit website will be coming up shortly, but you can find us on LinkedIn. Just search CanSlam Circuit.
And Sean, how do we find your OnlyFans?
Link in the description below.
It's private. You have to have the link to get to that, brother. Take me to Vegas and let's go see Cirque du Soleil, and maybe you'll get the link, brother.
There it is.
See you in November.
I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out anytime, Sean Asher.
Yeah, he'll reach out. Last question. You guys Sean's had it before. I'll ask it to Alex. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
I haven't used it in a really long time. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true.
All right.
Yeah, it's
just for everyone's knowledge, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're at the 12 on the sorry count.
Oh, 12, that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
I'll
We're
do
doing
That's
better.
not bad.
There it is.
13. All right, guys. Is there anything else you want to get out there before we let you go? Really appreciate your time this evening. This has been a great conversation.
Absolutely.
No, super stimulating. I had a lot of fun, and thank you very much for having.
How about you, Mr.
Appreciate
Asher?
you guys. No, I just appreciate you guys. Appreciate what you're doing for the community. It's good to have these conversations, bringing young and old together, new technologies, old ways and methods. It's good. So I appreciate you guys' time and your efforts in helping the community.
And thanks for being available last minute, Sean. Really appreciate that as well.
Always for you, brother.
All right. Adding value, making friends.
Check that box, buddy.
As always, if anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. Love to hear from you either way. If you got any suggestions for topics or guests, just shoot us an email. The Real Mackenzies, due west, available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, some of my personal takeaways. Start every conversation with, I'm sorry. Passion makes you dig. Follow the Geoholics TikTok. Don't be the smartest person in the room. And most importantly, be safe and healthy, everybody.
I still in my tank, never fall. falter, side by side we'll sing our song. Let's have a cheer for our fallen brethren. Through us say we'll never